Hey, Sheila, can you believe it's almost time for the holidays in downtown Snohomish?
Totally. I'm already getting in the holiday spirit. And you know what's coming up? The 3-day Winterfest celebration during the bigger Home for the Holiday season, right in the heart of our charming Main Street.
Yes, exactly. From Friday, December 12th through Sunday, December 14th, there'll be breakfast with Santa, an ice sculpting contest, the Santa-Palooza Christmas crawl, gingerbread house parties, a holiday wine walk, Chase the Grinch out of Snohomish race, live entertainment, even more festive fun for everyone.
It's like a magical mid-century holiday soiree meets small-time warmth. We have carols, lights, community gatherings, families, friends, hot cocoa, and twinkling storefronts.
Yeah, so beautiful. So mark your calendars, lace up your boots, bring your joy, because this year, Home for the Holidays in Snohomish is where memories are made.
We'll see you downtown. Let's make this a holiday tradition you won't forget.
All brought to you by the historic Downtown Snohomish Association. Don't miss it.
Megan.
Hey, Ken.
You just wanted to say that,
I
didn't
did.
you?
And Sheila.
Thank you. I'm here too. But what a special night tonight.
Yeah, that was a good, full, very loaded podcast.
Yeah.
We covered so many things, but I think it's very representative of the role that we were talking about, which is the mayor. Our guest is Mayor-Elect Aaron Hoffman. And there was so much to cover. I kind of felt bad for the guy.
I know.
And we had more questions.
Exactly. We didn't even
Aaron, you
hit
can
half
come
of
back
the
for part 2.
questions.
Yeah, we didn't. We had to kind of wrap them into some of the other ones. Or actually, he brought up a lot of stuff on his own that were, questions that we had outlined. So he was intuitive that way. But yeah, there's the mayoral role is so far encompassing because it touches so many different things. And he even talks about like it might not be specifically his responsibility. It might be more of the responsibility of a board or the council,
commissions or the other
involving the
groups.
community. But there's so many things within the scope of his focus that we had a lot to talk about.
There were. And, we covered everything from what goes on before the election, some of the stuff that he did during his campaign, and also what he is doing now in the 2 months between when you get elected and when you actually get sworn in as mayor. And there's a lot to do. There is no downtime.
Yeah, really. I mean, you probably just went right from campaigning to now just transitioning into building a team, and then he's going to have to transition right into taking the oath, and then it's off to work. So
yeah, there's a lot, but we can't wait to see what all he does in the next 4 years.
Yeah.
I think it's
You
always
talked a lot about it.
Yeah. There's a lot of good hopes, ideas, and, I think we can all acknowledge there is a limited amount of resources everywhere. We've talked about it in the context of HDSA and, being able to do what we can with what we have. And I think the same goes with the city, right? There's only so much that you or a group can do. So I think it'll be really, really interesting to see how everything pans out.
Yeah.
We never know.
An important topic on that, though, which we did discuss a little bit, is that because we're all limited, it's so important that we all work together.
Yeah.
And everybody is doing their part and having kind of a collaborative vision towards where we're trying to take the city. And I feel like he's going to be a good partner for that. It was nice to hear that he's in alignment with some of the things that we want to focus on, and that he at least has an idea about what it is that we do, and that the city is an important partner for us. And what was some of your highlights?
I think it was just good to get to know Aaron better.
Yeah.
And understand not only why he ran for the office that he did, but just him as a person, his family. Glad to see that he enjoys both Lord of the Rings and Star Wars. That was
is
important.
A top priority on your candidate
we
list.
can talk now. Aaron and I can have conversations.
Now we see why you really asked.
All right.
That's right. So that I think was important for me. And I think that's also important for everybody that listens to this, is to understand the person who is Aaron Hoffman, who is our new mayor, and the good person that he is, and some of the values that drive him, and that will guide him in his role. And so no one agrees 100% with anybody. Even I don't agree with myself some of the time. But it's so good to know the values and the good people that are there serving our community.
Yeah.
And that we can all work together for the betterment of each other.
Yeah.
So that was, I think, my big takeaway. And that he's also open. He shares. He admits that he doesn't know everything.
Yeah.
But that he values the input of good people.
Yeah. He spoke a lot about listening, which I know that sounds ironic, but
Spoke a lot about.
Yeah, exactly. But it does sound like he is open to input and feedback, which I always love to hear. And hopefully people use that. People capitalize his willingness to have conversations, to sit down with people, to get their door knocked. And yeah, the more we can feed him, the information and our input, the better informed I think he can be in his decisions and his role and how him and council works together and all the other organizations in town. So
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what he kind of tries to accomplish in the first, 100 days that he's in his role. And I also just do want to say I'm super appreciative of Linda and the relationship that we have built with her and with the city. And I think he brings in a lot of that same collaborative attitude. So as far as us continuing our partnership, I'm hoping it's pretty seamless. I think it will be. And I think that just is a testament of the type of people that want to serve in Snohomish,
That's Linda too. Something tells me though that we're going to continue to get to work with
I was
Linda.
just going to say that. She's totally not going to disappear from our radar.
Yeah.
And I think that Aaron...
Linda, there's lots of roles at HDSA.
Yeah, if you want to be a volunteer.
Hey, I think that Aaron and Linda will work together.
Yeah.
As well.
I hope so.
And find opportunities to collaborate for the benefit of Snohomish.
Totally. So here's the episode with our Mayor-Elect, Aaron Hoffman.
Enjoy.
We have a full room today. It's not often that we get to be this festive, eh?
I know, it looks so pretty in here. I was so happy when I walked up the stairs. You get the smell first, and then you see the beautiful mural on the wall, and
it's truly winter wonderland.
It feels really nice.
Yeah, we're in winter. It is dark out.
I'm ready for Christmas.
Yeah, now you are. I mean, how could you not be after stepping up in here?
Welcome. Today
Thank
we
you.
have a special guest with us, Aaron Hoffman.
Glad to be here. So thanks for having me.
Mayor-Elect.
Yes.
Aaron Hoffman. Did you ever think you would hear that in front of your name?
Definitely not. Politics was not on the list.
Yeah.
And I'm excited though, and grateful. So I think the next 4 years will be busy and a lot of fun.
Yeah. So speaking of, like you said, politics was not in the cards, or at least what your plans were. So how did you get motivated into running? I'm sure that was not a light decision. I could only imagine how big of a decision that is.
Yeah. I always vote, and I felt like that was my position within the political realm. But a lot of that came down to, like, I didn't want to be someone on Facebook being a keyboard warrior or just angry at the news every day. And so I kind of felt like, hey, my responsibility is to vote, and that's about it. But we're a small business owner here in town, and a couple business owners had brought up the idea of me running. And, we're one of the unique business owners that has our business here, but we also live within the city limits. So I kind of started looking into it, and then I had a couple other input sources, and then finally, I guess the straw that broke the camel's back. I was at a church event. My wife volunteers for this. We go to Westgate Chapel down in Edmonds, and she volunteers for this program called Church Awakening, and they bring pastors in from all over the nation, and even from other countries, and it's a chance for them to kind of come and be congregants and just get filled up themselves, So we've done that for a couple of years, and there's a dinner event the night before the actual event starts, and sat down next to a guy. His name's Greg Jantz, and we're getting to know each other. And he goes, "Hey, where do you live?" I said, "In Snohomish," and he's like in Snohomish, and I said, "Yeah, we're right by the high school." And he goes, "This is going to sound weird, but I think you're going to be the next mayor
Oh
of
my
Snohomish."
gosh.
Weird.
Greg, unfortunately, he passed away
Oh no.
this last summer in a car accident. But he was a great guy and a big supporter of mine. And I actually got to connect with his wife last week. and tell her this story. And she was she was so excited. And so, yeah, it's not nothing I ever really planned on doing. It's just people kind of kept speaking it into my life. And once I started looking into it more, I realized like, hey, my work background, being a small business owner here in town, I think being a dad of young kids, raising our family here, it really gave me a good opportunity to help, I think. So I'm excited, and I think local politics can be one of the best areas of politics because it's important. You can actually be effective in the role. You have to bridge the political divide. I like the fact that it's nonpartisan, although I think nonpartisan is actually the wrong word. It should be bipartisan because you're really trying to work with both sides of the aisle and really uh, connect them as a bridge. So I'm excited. It'll be good.
Man, so around what time frame was it that you made that decision?
So Greg Jantz, that was March of 24.
Oh, wow.
And so I started just listening in on council meetings and just doing research, meeting with people that I felt were, wiser as far as local politics than I was and am. And just kept looking into it. And then February, I did like a soft launch. Well, not really a campaign launch, but I met with a couple business owners and I just said, hey, I'm looking at doing this. Is this something you'd be supportive of? And that was a green light, open door. And I launched the campaign in March officially. And I think I put the work in and knocked on a lot of doors, dragged my kids around with us a lot. So it was good.
Yeah, so it's a long process between that decision and, when we actually get to see and to actually vote. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a long road to do that.
Yeah. And the door knocking.
Oh my gosh. Good job on that. I literally door knocked for like one afternoon. I was like, not for me. I didn't do it again.
I did 3,000 doors.
Oh my gosh.
I had the kids with me on about 12 or 1,300 of them.
Wow.
And so they're actually kind of missing door knocking. They're like,
Oh,
when are we going door
back?
knocking? Yeah. And I was like,
Really?
oh, maybe we'll keep it up.
Verify that with Ruby and like, what I actually feel.
Is it just like trick or treat practice to them, or like how do they enjoy it?
Well, Ruby was good. So we have 3 kids. Ruby is 10, and then Goldie is 5, and Axel is 3. And Ruby was a great help. She'd take notes at the doors. Hey, Ruby, that person said they wanted to vote for me. That person's worried about this. This person is worried about that. And so she's writing it all down, and then we'd take notes. And Goldie was just, she loved ringing the doorbell.
Yeah.
And then Axel was a menace and made it very difficult to actually knock on a lot of doors. So
Axel can stay home.
He was pulling, people's flowers out of the planter pots and picking up rocks and throwing them. And luckily we didn't hit any windows or cars.
Oh my God.
But
it's like, sorry, I broke your window. Vote for me, please.
it was stressful. And then every day with the kids would end with one of them tripping. And then
that sounds about right.
The tears, and that was the end of the day.
Well, good for you for making it a family affair.
Yeah. That's kind of a goal of mine in this whole experience is how can I, everything's a sacrifice. You only have so much time in every day, but how can I onboard my kids into this so that they get the learning lesson as I get the learning lesson? And it's pretty funny hearing like your 5-year-old talk about council positions and mayor position and what you want to do and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty cool.
They might be future, leaders in the community. They're like, I know how to door knock. I have 25 years of experience door knocking.
Yeah. No, I had no idea that you could have a big impact in a community just by putting the time in, and they know it now. So,
and even if the election hadn't gone the way that it had, the time together was something that will strengthen your family really forever.
For sure.
Definitely worth it.
It was worth it. Yeah. Win or lose, it would have been definitely worth it. Yeah.
That's probably what they miss.
Yeah.
Dad, can we go out again and
right
knock on doors?
Yeah.
just to
So
be together.
I told them we'll keep it up.
They
We'll-
could sign up as Bach ambassadors for HDSA.
There you
there
go.
you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got all sorts of stuff they can hand up.
Yeah. Yeah. I was actually thinking as mayor, I think it'd be cool to keep up the door knocking. I
Yeah.
mean, shouldn't really just be election years. If I can go
Yeah.
knock on a couple hundred doors every summer and just check in with people, and I'll probably learn quite a bit along the way. I think it'll be great. So,
Not a
Get
bad
your
idea.
steps in too.
yeah. I lost 15 pounds.
Oh my
my
gosh.
gosh.
March. Yeah. From March until 2 weeks ago, 15
Wow.
pounds. And I think that was from walking and a little bit of stress and maybe not eating enough. But
Yeah.
yeah,
It demands a lot.
it does.
Now you'll have to track your weight from like the time you're sworn in until the end of your 4
Right,
years.
yeah.
And the
Oh,
gray hairs. I
time
don't
for-
see any
Yes.
right
yeah,
now.
I don't.
so
I
let
don't
me know
think
how
I have
that
any
goes.
yet, but I feel like I have a couple extra wrinkles already. So
Well, good thing your wife does skincare for a living.
yes,
Well,
yeah.
so speaking of your wife, I know you've mentioned being a business owner. Feel free to shout out your
Yeah.
wife's business.
Yeah. So my wife Alyssa, we started Sprig Beauty Co. Now it was Sprig Flower Co. So 2018, I think we started our flower business, and that was just out of our kitchen. And we were talking before the show about how your house becomes a staging center for small business, and ours was definitely that, and still is that. But in 2019, Randolph Sellers, the bike shop used to be in the main space, and Randolph Sellers was in the front. But when they took over the larger space, they had this void, and they said, "Hey, we know you guys are doing flowers. Is there any chance you'd want a brick and mortar shop?" So we opened our brick and mortar in 2019, and we were there until 2022, and then moved to a little bit larger of a space, still on First Street. And yeah, it's been exciting and a challenge, and we're learning every year, but still believe it will be part of our future dream. So
Yeah, she does a lot with her brand. I love the clean
Mhm.
makeup, clean skincare, and now she's doing treatments there too now,
yeah,
which that's
yeah,
kind of a new.
esthetician services.
Yeah, it's really
So
cool.
yeah, we got two awesome employees that they were both licensed estheticians, and that had always kind of been our next plan.
Mm.
And so when two employees were there, and we're like, now's a good time. Now, timing was kind of tough. She kind of launched this new aspect of the business like a day after the
Right.
election.
Wow.
So everything was really stacked up. But
When it rains,
was,
it pours.
yeah,
That's what they
it's-
say, right?
I mean, sometimes your energy is like already up at that momentum, so it's like,
Why not?
Why not?
That
Take
is going.
advantage
that
of
is for
it,
sure.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we know from what you just shared that your door knocking was obviously something that you felt like was impactful.
hmm
What else do you contribute to the success of your campaign?
Yeah, I think starting with a lot of business support was great. We know a lot of the business owners here in Snohomish, and that's kind of where I started the campaign. Just like I said in February, we met with a bunch of business owners and just said, "Hey, is this something you'd support us in?" And the cool thing with businesses is they're the ones that kind of know the pulse of the town. So not only are they supportive in spreading the message or donating to the campaign, but they're giving you input, and input's really necessary because no candidate has all the answers. So you need the right people around you to kind of help guide the ship along with you. So I really felt like I got a good group of people around me that helped. And then as I built up kind of my inner circle of support, I was just really blessed with really good people. So a lot of people warn me, they're like, "Hey, building your team is terrible. Door knocking is terrible. Fundraising's terrible."
They're really not selling this
And
whole
no.
concept to
Yeah.
you very well.
And maybe that's a good thing, but I didn't find any of that. Door knocking was actually, I really liked it. And fundraising went really well. And another one, they're like, "Well, don't worry about, what people say about you. The main thing is getting them to even care about you." And Snohomish is a pretty politically active town. So I don't think that was much of an issue. I think people, we had really good voter turnout compared to like county percentages. So the town cares.
Yeah.
And so it was overall a really good experience. A lot of work, but it's a good experience.
Yeah, you ran a great campaign.
Thanks.
It was effective.
Yeah.
So regarding voter turnout, Aaron, I'm curious just because the political environment is so heated nowadays, and people who don't know either candidate, they really think that they know exactly what they stand for already. And, people that didn't vote for you, or some of them are upset.
Right.
And I guess, what is it that you think you can do to be that bipartisan mayor and reach out to the 47% that didn't vote for you? How is it that you feel like we can bring the town together and work together for the common good?
Yeah. I think a lot of that is just actually meeting in person. And there's a responsibility from my end to reach out to the public. And then, hopefully the public feels there's some responsibility to try to come and meet me. And I'm going to try to make that as easy of an opportunity as possible. But like just yesterday, I was meeting with someone down at Trails End, and the table next to me, a couple was sitting there, and they came up and introduced themselves. And pretty sure they didn't vote for me, but they were just really nice. And they said, "Hey, it's just nice to meet you. We're excited to talk with you and work with you." And like, that's how it should be, and I really hope I can be more of a bridge than a divider. Obviously, there's some issues people won't see eye to eye on me or with me. If I thought everything was running perfectly, I wouldn't have run for the position. So I'm excited to bring my background, my vision to the table. But I think people will find I'm a pretty good person to work with. I'm really not too stuck in my ways. I really want to hold some standards that are outside of politics, so that, if people can just trust these standards, it doesn't matter who's in charge, because at least these standards stay in place.
Can you elaborate on that
Share
a
what
little
those
bit?
are.
One would be let's say stepping into a social issue. And I'm not saying that social issues shouldn't be discussed, but funding of social issues. And I really think the city should stay really focused on core municipal services, because there's a lot to disagree on just in core municipal services.
How wide our sidewalks should be, for
Yes,
example, and
sidewalks,
where we should
parking,
park.
flock cameras, civic centers, construction projects, all of it. There's plenty to disagree on there. And so a standard for me would be, free speech has to be protected. But I am weary about the government stepping into social issues. So for me, it would be, say you really want to see the Easter parade funded by the city and blown into a huge event. And similarly, there's people that want to see Pride funded by the city, a large event. The standard I think we should hold is just say, hey, you guys should support the events you want to support, and that's great. I think the city's going to just stay on the sidelines, and that's a happy standard I'm willing to hold. So
Where do you think that that's being done right now?
Like, is that a change, do you feel like?
Well, I mean, I will say, even with HDSA, with the PBIA fees and then HDSA organizing Pride, that's not really something that just Christian conservatives are finding a little conflict there. I've had very socially liberal business owners reach out and they go, look, I actually support Pride. I like the Pride event. I don't really know if HDSA should be the one that's involved in it.
Got it.
That's not the city. So it's not really my purview, although I think there's a pretty tight connection between the city and HDSA. So
It's funny that you think that. Only because we feel the city is a partner, a critical partner. But I guess the best way to put it is that oftentimes HDSA feels lonely. And
Okay. That's probably a good way to put it.
yeah, like so much becomes our responsibility. So much is like, oh yeah, we'd love to see that. go do it,
Go do it,
HDSA.
HDSA.
You
Yeah.
know, like,
Yeah.
But wait,
so
this is your job. Yeah.
yeah. But with funding of like PBIA, for example, like that is all through an MOU that's like you can do these things and we can do tourism, we can do promotions, we can like, feature Snohomish as a place to just come and be here. But our events are all self-funded. So I understand how that could be like, whether it's Winterfest or Pride or whatever else that it's doing, the
Right.
wine walk. We don't use any of the PBIA money for that because, to be totally honest, there's not enough. It's a
Right.
very minimal fund. So we use that for like buying the pedestrian flags for the safety, and some of it goes towards the mural. And we're trying to find some ways to use it for some landscaping, but
Not enough.
it's so small
Yeah.
that like there's actually not enough
Yeah,
that we
not
can
that
even
much.
do with it. I would love it if that was a conflict. Like
Yeah.
that would mean that we had more money that we just don't have. But on the city side, like I think if you asked any event planner, whether it's HDSA or Klahia Days or the Chamber or We Heart All, like nobody feels like there's a huge amount of funding or support coming from the city because there's not. And I think that's also just because the city is so focused on having to do like what you're describing, those core responsibilities. They don't even have the capacity to do much for events beyond someone that issues your permit
Yeah,
and
permitting.
tells
Yeah.
you what to do.
Right.
That's kind of the line. So I was just interested in what you thought
hmm
where those
Additional standards.
But that's
yeah.
a good
It's a good standard to
yeah,
have.
it is a good standard. I'm curious, like what other standards, like so when it comes to like focus of the city, core, operations. What other kind of standards do you think will help to
Yeah.
keep, people understanding that you're serving everybody with these,
hmm
guidelines?
Yeah, I think the Civic Center. That's a good topic to discuss this on. But I've mentioned before that I think the city should be ran like a business, and some people push back on that, and they're like, well, businesses are for profit and cities aren't, and I think the conflict of that comparison comes with who do you think the boss is? If you put the government up here and the people down here, then saying you should run like a business is wrong. If you put the people up here and then the government as the employee, then yeah, it should be ran like a business. And a business is trying to maximize the return on any investment that they put in. So for me, like the Civic Campus was a big topic I ran on, because to me, when I looked at the cost comparisons, it wasn't actually apples to apples. And I was concerned about people really not getting the full picture of what one decision would be and what the other decision would be. And so a standard for me is we should be able to justify especially large decisions, but really any decision we should be able to justify to the public.
Based on that return.
Based on a return, or just saying like, look, this is the most wise use of your money, and here is how it's going to impact you. And with the Civic Center, I just don't think that is the most wise decision as far as spending the money. But also a lot of people don't know how it's going to impact their finances yet. And when it comes down to a $60 million project, some people say it's less, some people say it's more, but 60 million that's not an inaccurate number. That will impact people. And I think we should have the standard of saying, hey, you're right, this will impact you. This is how it will impact you. And this is why we have to do it. And I just don't think we checked all those boxes quite yet.
So do you think that was more of an issue with actual decision making, or do you think it's a communication issue?
I think, in business, I'm a CFO of a commercial fishing company, so we're making decisions all the time, and sometimes they're small and sometimes they're large. And like we bought a boat last fall, and that was a big decision. It was a big investment for our family. We're a family business, and we had to take on more debt than I think the business has ever had. But we really ran out all the options, and we looked at, worst case scenarios and best case scenarios. And we really felt we had a good grasp on what this was going to cost and what the potential upside for the decision was. On the civic campus, really right at the foundation of the decision-making process, I think there was a comparison that didn't really show the numbers in a way that presented reality. So there was, on one side, there's keeping current buildings, and there was a maintenance figure for 20, I think it was 20 years of maintenance, and it was about 12, I think it was 12.6 million. We'll call it 13 million. And that was all the maintenance on current structures. And it went down to even fixing door handles and whatnot. And that's good information to have. That is a great project to know. That is how businesses run. We do those type of, for our boats, we cast out how, 5 years, 10 years, what we think we'll have to replace on our boats. And maintenance is a big part of our business. A lot of our boats are from the 70s or even older. So we get it. And there's the cost of the new, and that was about 40 million. On keeping the old, they also included a $26 million figure that was to move our public works facility to a property called the Pit. And that project was really, I think, it was an exercise to see what that would look like. It wasn't a fixed cost. And I don't think there was a ton of support for moving public works to the Pit because it was $26 million. So in my mind, I don't think you should really compare, 13 plus 26 to get to about 40 over here, and then approximately 40 to build new over here. Because really what we're looking at is like 13 million to 40. And then this 40 actually became 60. So the cost comparison is really 13 to 60. And public works does need, something done. The facilities are not great. There's a building that needs to be moved. But there's also a property on Bonneville that I think could be a really great opportunity for the city. And I've been trying to really showcase that, fiscal responsibility isn't about saying no to everything. I think it's really about maximizing utility. And this Bonneville property, I'm excited to look into it. It'll be great having a team of city staff, and I've met with enough city staff to know that we have some really great employees, and I'm sure but I'm excited. I think with the right team and a team behind me, I think we'll make some good decisions and hopefully be able to come up with a more cost-effective solution. And even if that is the property on Pine, I still think there's more cost-effective solutions than the current design.
Yeah, because sometimes I wonder whether things are communication issues. And it's probably because I live with Trent that everything becomes a communication issue. But, but
and
also
he's a communications expert.
Yeah. In my day job, I'm an engineer. And sometimes you go through so much calculation, you go through so much analysis, but there's only so much that you can present in order to make all of this, hundreds and hours of work be consumable to someone like a boss or a manager, right? To make a decision. Right. So I do know, or I've seen, experiences where the issue is in the communication, that someone might have done all of the permutations and all of the computations, and they are making the optimal choice. But the way in which it is communicated, including the proof of, how much work did you do to come to that decision, sometimes doesn't come across. Right. So sometimes I wonder, I always question, is it actually the decision, or is it actually, the background work, or is it just a communication and a marketing issue?
That makes me think of me and my father-in-law, because we don't always see numbers the same. And so I run all the numbers, and then it's my job to create a story out of it. Yeah. Something that's, like you said, consumable and provable. And it's not an easy job because everyone has their own viewpoints.
Exactly.
And so I definitely get what you're saying.
Yeah. And I can see that just getting, bundled up into the whole thing. where someone might be trying to be like, yes, I did do all of this work and I did do the math and the science behind it. And maybe it just unfortunately did not get, translated, or the pieces that they think is important, they put out, and someone is like, oh, I'm actually hinging on that piece of information to make said decision. So
ultimately, it's really on the decision maker to take accountability for communicating and that decision, how they got there. And I think that, from your campaign, we've seen that you do not shy away from, sharing information, being out front. And you mentioned, part of the way that you hope to bring the community together behind you is people getting to know you.
Yeah.
And that's part of, why we wanted to have you on our podcast, is so that, everybody listening in, watching on YouTube, they get to know you, as a person, because you are our new mayor. And it's going to be important for people to put a face with the name and put, your intentions, your values behind the actions that we're going to see. So maybe you could just take a moment and just share, a little bit about you, so that they know you're not just the mayor,
right?
You are Aaron Hoffman, and what do you stand for? What is it that you like to do? Just
Who is
a 3-minute elevator
Aaron
speech?
Hoffman?
Door knocker, professional.
Getting close. I think I definitely had a learning curve there and improve. But who am I? I am a husband to my wife Alyssa, a father to my 3 kids. I'm a Christian. That's a really important aspect of my life. Business owner, CFO, and those aren't just like titles I'm rambling off. Those are actually, that's my life, and we moved to Snohomish because we wanted to raise our kids here. We wanted a town with sidewalks and just the ability to go walk into town for dinner. And my work is 2 blocks from my home, which is just such a blessing. I love it.
Your work is 2 blocks from your home.
It's the best.
It's so nice. So, I'm living the small town dream, and I love Snohomish. I came from a small town. I grew up in Lake Arrowhead, California. It's a small mountain community. Then we moved to Lake Stevens, which at the time was a small town, but not as much anymore.
Yeah, it's not.
And I think what would I like people to know about me? I really do like listening. I've never been in my campaign. I obviously had to be the face of my own campaign, but I think I told this story. I grew up I was a pair figure skater, pretty competitive, nationally ranked, and my coach would always say, "Aaron, you're not the picture, you're the frame, and your job is to you pretty much don't need to be seen. Like you're supposed to highlight your pair partner." And I think I've carried that into my life. I think up until I ran for this position, most people knew me as Alyssa's husband. More so now, people are joking, hey, Mrs. Mayor. But I don't have a problem being the behind the scenes guy. And even as I've learned more about city government, the position of mayor versus city council, I think I'll fit better into the mayor position than I would a city council position. City council is a difficult position to be in. You're fed a lot of information. It's not information you're necessarily involved in each step of the way. And then you have to make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me seems really stressful, where, as a CFO, I love being behind the scenes. I'm the guy in the office running numbers, and then my father-in-law and brother-in-law are having the meetings, more of the face-to-face meetings. And that's always been fine. Over the years, I've stepped into the meetings a little bit more, but I think people will find that I really do like listening. Not everything is black and white. There's usually gray area. There's even, accounting has gray area that you have to make decisions all the time. And it's not just, you do this every single time. You have to follow, GAAP procedure. But for the most part, everything has a little bit of room to at least see the other side of things. And I think people will see that that's the case for me. So
I'm going to deviate for the script really quick. just flash questions for you.
Our very concrete script.
I was like, we have a script.
Lord of the Rings or Star Wars?
Oh.
Oh man. Books, Lord of the Rings, movies, Star Wars.
Okay.
Oh.
I appreciate that distinction for sure. Anyone that's read any Star Wars books would be like, oh my goodness.
They
No.
have Star Wars books?
They do. They've got 1 billion of them.
Oh.
So they're garbo. First job with the W-2?
Ice skate sharpener. I worked at a pro shop and sharpened ice skates.
Wow.
interesting.
And then I worked at a hot dog stand outside Home Depot for years.
Oh
Oh,
my
good.
gosh, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
What Home Depot do I need to visit to get a hot
that
dog
one was
stand?
that one was Everett. It had a hot dog stand outside, coffee stand inside. I'd mostly do the hot dog stand, but
That's
I did
hilarious.
not
I'd
know
make
that.
coffee a little bit too. So
And then favorite restaurant? Doesn't have to be downtown. Just like favorite food, I guess.
I mean, Pace Kitchen does have pretty awesome food, and we're good friends with them too. So shout out to Joe. But yeah, we'll stick with Pace.
Okay, good. So I just wanted to get to know you a little bit more on
Yeah.
the non-mayoral kind of side.
But that's so cool that you were a figure skater.
Yeah.
Like, can we be expecting any figure skating events then coming up?
If we could get an ice rink in Snohomish, I'd be for it.
Maybe
but,
one of those icy days when it
yeah,
comes up in the winter.
Ice at the plaza in front of the Carnegie.
Yeah,
Make
that
it
would
part
be
of the
awesome.
tree lighting.
That would be
Oh
awesome.
my gosh.
Ice skating was a great part of my childhood. It was pretty fantastic. Like I said, I grew up in Lake Arrowhead, and at the time, that was like the place to train. I mean, it was you're sharing the ice with Michelle Kwan and
Wow.
other Olympians, and it was amazing. So really cool, beautiful place to live. Then I switched to hockey a little. When we moved to Washington, the figure skating scene up here is not the same as California, and so I tried to look for about a year, and then I switched to hockey and got to play on a Canadian league for a year. That was really fun. And so, yeah, pretty cool. Then broke my leg real bad right before college. I was going to play on the UW club team, but just never came back really from it. Still play casually, but yeah. But Axel, our son, wants to play, so I'll probably be getting back out there.
Does his name have anything to do with your figure skating background?
We joke. It doesn't really. My wife's Norwegian, on her mom's side. And so we just liked the name. It was, we liked the Norwegian background. She has an Uncle Axel. The one thing we wish, we were really unsure if we were going to spell it Axel or the Norwegian spelling, which is Aksel.
Oh.
And we went with Axel, and we kind of regret it. So we might change it at some point.
Yeah, you always
officially.
enough.
It's like,
Yeah.
$50.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty easy to do.
So getting back to mayor, I guess January 1st is when you're going to take the helm.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it that you are doing now to make sure that you can hit the ground running?
Yeah, I've had a busy week of meetings. So I've met with quite a few other mayors from the region, really with just the question of what do I not know that I don't know, like, please
They're
just
like,
tell
how
me.
much time do you have?
Yeah. Just what do you wish someone told you when you were in this position? And they've been really helpful.
Mhm.
And I've been very grateful. And a lot of it just comes down to come into the role with your ears turned on
Mhm.
and be ready to learn and listen, and don't come in expecting to know everything. And there's benefit sometimes to not knowing everything, because you have to ask, well, why? That's a really important question. It's a really powerful question. Why do you do it that way? Why has it been done that way? Why not this way? And I think that right there, we could see some good positive change. It might annoy some people.
It might end up annoying you.
It probably
Personal
will. Yeah, a little bit. But
The floodgates will open.
that's part of the job. And so there will be a lot of whys and hows. And yeah, mostly just meetings right now. And then a mayor told me, he said, really just enjoy these next 2 months. You don't have the official responsibility, but you're stepping into it and just learn and connect. And I think that's what I've been doing. So
Like the calm before the storm, right?
yeah.
Are there any meetings planned with you and Linda at all as like a transition or handoff or kind
Yeah,
of like,
she left me a nice voicemail on Monday and said she'd get me connected with some people within City Hall, and so I think there'll be some interaction there, and hopefully just have a nice transition. So I told her at the when we did our candidate forum that you guys did with the League of Women Voters, which was a great event. But I pulled her aside at the end and I just said, hey, obviously we don't see eye to eye on everything, but I'm not running on the fact that I think you're doing everything incorrectly. So I'd love to be able to, have your contact information and have you as a resource of someone I can step or reach out to and ask questions to. So I think I'm hoping that we'll have a good relationship moving forward. She's been pretty friendly when I've seen her in person before. So I think it'll be good.
I think that will go a long way, to helping the community see that, two people that ran against each other can work together and do so really well for, the benefit of the people who live, work, and play here.
Yeah, I think that's totally true. I mean, great example is like Megan endorsed Linda, and I really like Megan. And I was bummed actually to see the change up on the council position, and I let Megan know that I was looking forward to working with her. And you can just have differing opinions and still be a really good teammate for people.
Yeah.
And it's actually concerning when everybody on your team has the same opinions as you,
right?
Because you're really just closed off to a huge, treasure trove of knowledge and information.
Yeah.
And so,
speaking of that information, and especially given all of the time that you've spent talking to people during your campaign, what are you hearing as people's like big concern in Snohomish? What have people been, be like, hey, this is my top front of mind when I think about our city government. This is what I care about, or this is what I'm concerned about.
Yeah, cost of living is that's important to everybody. Utility rates are going up a bit, and that was kind of tied in with my concern over the new civic campus. Is if utilities need these improvements, that's something small towns are faced with dealing with, and sometimes that does mean you have to just raise rates, and that's not fun. But like I met a woman out door knocking, and we were talking about the utility rates going up, and she just started sobbing because she's like, I'm a single mom and my kids are 18, they're moving out, and I don't know if I can afford an extra $100 on my utility bill. And to me, there's no way you can ever make sure that everybody is always taken care of and always can afford exactly what they're doing, but it shows that the decisions we make carry weight. And fiscal responsibility is pretty universally beneficial to people. So beyond that, there is, like I said, Snohomish is pretty politically active community. So there's history here, and there's a little bit of a history of division. And I hope I can help be part of the new chapter that at least tones down that. It's not about, like Ken says, it's not about agreeing on everything. It's just mutual respect in the disagreement. I think that's really important. I mean, I was pretty shocked at some of the verbiage out there. The Nazi and those kind of things where you're just like, come on, and
I didn't know I was a Nazi.
Yeah.
Dude, I've been called the craziest things.
Yeah, I know you've
It's
dealt with
ridiculous.
it. So it's pretty unfortunate, really.
And it gets back to like that, what you talked about of just like getting to know you, just having a conversation with you. I felt on both sides when I was running, both sides of like whether you're for Megan or for John, because he was the one running against me at the time. The assumptions that people make about you with literally knowing nothing.
Right.
Because literally all that had happened was that I put my name in there as a candidate. I hadn't put a drop of information out yet. So unless you were familiar with me or HDSA, which at that time I had only been in the role for like a year. not a lot had happened. People made judgments because I was just not John.
Right.
So that must mean these things. And it was insane, the stuff that people would come up with. And I just remember thinking, like, is this even worth my energy to combat? Because are people even going to listen? Or do they even care? Or are their minds just made up from the beginning? And I think you can find that balance of people who do actually want to know. Typically, they're the ones not saying anything. You know, like you've said this before about, you could, how do you say this? You
I don't
say it
know.
so eloquently about, like, for everybody who's saying something, there's X amount of people
Yeah.
who are not expressing their passionate, strong opinions. And that's kind of where I've personally found those are the people that are like, doesn't mean they don't care as much. It doesn't mean that they're not as passionate, but they're more of the observers, or the ones that are trying to actually take in all the information and make some good judgment decisions, you know, instead of just like, oh, this is exactly in alignment with what I think and this isn't. The other thing that was interesting was that I had people support who also didn't know anything about me. I'm like, you don't know what I think about that. You didn't ask. And just because I'm not my opponent doesn't mean that all my views are differ from
Right.
them.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting to see how people behave in situations like that, and the names and all of the things, but also just the support side can be an interesting thing to look at as well, you know? Because it's like, do you actually know why you support me? Do
Yeah.
you actually know what you believe in by
Yeah.
voting for me? I don't know if you do. I'm not the type of person that's like, I'll just take any vote. I was more like, but why? Like, what is it that you're hoping to see? You know, what is the impact that you're hoping is going to
Right.
come from my name versus John's name? You
Yeah.
know, so it was a very interesting, just like people watching
Yeah.
experiment. You know,
Social media was a big part of that, I think, for
Yeah.
me. I had never had to do video type messaging. And so I really had to push myself out of my comfort zone. But I'm happy I did, because all along the campaign trail, I felt like I'd get little ideas, you know, so I'd just be, it was like in the downtime, and idea would pop up and I'd write it down. I'd go, oh, I need to write that out. That'd be a good thing to share. And like 3 or 4 days before the election, I felt like that just like turned off. And to me, I felt like it was saying you did what the most you could do. You put yourself out there. I was trying to show people who I was so that they knew who they were voting for, what they were voting for. And obviously you can't cover every little small aspect of the decision making that I'm going to be making over the next 4 years. But I felt like I brought people in, I hope, to have a little bit of an idea of where I'd be on any situation, or at least my thinking process behind it.
From a voter standpoint, it is really hard to try to know who the candidates are that you're voting for, right? I think with social media, it's both a pro and a con, like you said. People actually get to see you in a video, hear what your voice sounds like, hear what your opinions are. But at the same time, social media also gives you such a extraneous amount of information, right? Whether coming from your actual campaign or from the comments and all the keyboard warriors. I like that term. I'm going to use that now. And as a voter, it's kind of like at some point you're just like, oh my God, this is so much stimulation. This is so much information.
Right.
Or it's not enough. Like I look through the voting pamphlet, and I don't know who has the time to actually look into every single person's website or email every single candidate to ask them those questions of like, so Megan, what do you actually stand for? You know,
Right.
and just getting that little snippet. It's a tough balance of like how much information is enough information that is the correct information to accurately portray who you are as a candidate versus not enough. It's tough.
It's basically like a resume and then a 6-month-long job interview, but you don't really have like the interview questions, or you're just kind of winging it based off of what you think is important or the best way to do it, and you do the best that you can in the end, you know.
And ultimately, listening to the candidates and what they have to say is, in my mind, the best way to know it's not what someone else says about this candidate
Mhm.
or, this person is supporting this candidate, therefore they must be a good person or a bad person. It's what does this person have to say?
Right.
And social media has really diverted us from listening to the candidates and instead has created this whole kind of structure around, a persona, if you will, and trying to put it onto, everybody with these labels. And that's become a real problem for us. And it's impacting nations,
Yeah.
regions, states, counties, and cities.
Yeah.
Families.
And families.
Yeah.
Yeah, most
It
importantly.
goes all the way down
actually.
to the family level. I mean, there's families totally divided over politics. And
Yeah.
it's like,
even local politics.
yeah, it's sad.
If we can't maintain that connection with one another, I was just on the phone with Brianne today. She's the executive director of the Washington State Main Street program. So she's kind of like directing the entire program that we're all participating in. And she called me and we were talking about the privilege it is to do this work because
Right.
we create spaces where it's neutral, that you're just coming together to just be part of your community. And you won't even likely think about this person standing next to me at the tree lighting or whatever it is, who they voted for or what they think. You're just immersed in the joy of the experience that's being given to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, I'm so grateful for this job and this work to be able to not only participate in those, but curate that, because what a shame if we didn't have those opportunities, And it's just interesting work that we get to do because it's not by a specific organization that has one targeted vision or mission. And it's not, a church where we're all coming together for the sake of worshiping together.
Mm-hmm.
It's just everyone and all of their broad beliefs and experiences are just together because they live here, and it's like, if we can at least hang on to that,
Right.
I feel like there's some hope
Yeah.
for all of our communities. And it is a shame that it's causing so much division. I mean, there's so many things these days that can cause division, but
I will say the cool thing with Snohomish is I really feel like it's a truly purple town.
it definitely
And
is.
you can come here, you can have almost any political background or stance on almost any issue, and I think for the most part you can still feel very comfortable being in Snohomish. And I have family that are different social backgrounds, different friends with different skin colors and different political views and all of it. And everyone loves coming to Snohomish. So it's a special town.
I hope we can just keep appreciating the purple, and that you can't have the purple without the red and the blue,
Right.
Yeah.
and then whoever else is
true.
in the middle, So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
That sense
true.
of belonging, right?
Yeah.
Like we really cannot lose that. We've
Yeah.
seen so many other small towns that have blown up into such big towns and lose that sense where you can walk through town and be like, oh yeah, like I'm here. I live here. I belong here.
Yeah.
So can't wait to see what, you do in the next 4 years to really make sure that, again, doesn't matter what shade of purple you're in,
Right.
you still feel like you belong here in Snohomish.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. I will say one thing I'd really like to do is I want to keep my social media presence going forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a great way of being able to show what partnership looks like. So whether it's, doing activities like this with HDSA or like the Legion, yesterday I mentioned the Legion Post, they do the wreaths across America. And that's a cool opportunity for me to be able to use the platform of mayor to be able to show partnership and connection and what's going on in town. And I'm looking forward to doing that.
Yeah, that's great.
I hope people remain as engaged in your platform after the election. Because, elections, they bring energy
Right.
to these topics. And then when the regular business of governing comes in, people are like, oh, Aaron's got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll vote for him again in 4 years, And so hopefully we can keep people engaged and whatever we can do, to support kind of getting, messages out there that are relevant.
Yeah.
We're happy to, help people continue to remain informed and engaged, as a community partner.
Yeah.
Speaking of informed and engaged, because I can't figure out another way to segue into my next question. The First Street Master Plan is something that has come up in the last year and is going to continue on, as part of the goals. It's something that needs to be looked at for all the reasons that we've talked about. It's a needed project. So this committee was formed over the last year. What do you know about that, and how do you plan to kind of integrate yourself into that a little bit as you take your mayoralship role?
Yeah, that's a good question. I haven't gone to the meetings, running the campaign. I just couldn't do everything.
Yeah.
And my job at the time of the campaign was to get elected. Now my job will be to be the best mayor I can be. So I think people will see me, present at most things. Obviously you just can't do, it's a part-time job and you can't do everything. But as far as First Street Master Plan, I have friends that are on the committee, and so we chat about it. Not that I'm not trying to pull strings or anything, but they just keep me informed.
Yeah.
And I check out, the pamphlets, or the information they put out. I think they're on to something pretty good. I like some of the ideas coming out of it.
Yeah, I do too.
A big thing for me, regarding the First Street parking, I really think there's a lot of wise people in Snohomish, and one of the parts of being mayor is to be the connector between the community and City Hall. And then the mayor and the city staff hopefully is the connector between City Hall and the council. And that keeps everyone really connected. And I like seeing the council out doing stuff. I just heard, Gabe Jacobs, he's a new council member. He's been really digging into some of the homeless and food shortage issues, people that just need help with food. And also, like Tom Merrill, I just heard a business owner down on Pine. He just came in out of the blue just to ask how it's going, with the construction. That's really important. And I think that's great. So if I want to view the council as a team, so I hope all of us are engaged, and I think we are. It is an engaged council. But regarding, First Street, I don't know exactly what First Street is going to look like, but I think they're on a good track.
Yeah, I appreciate that they developed the committee.
Yeah,
That's, I think, was probably one of the better decisions that was made.
for sure.
And they're considering so many things. It's going to be interesting to see what happens during your time, just because
Mhm.
projects like this, the phases are long,
Right.
but then I feel like once it shifts into a next phase, then it kind of runs for a bit with a good amount of momentum.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what sort of shifts come
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah, no, it's
I'm sorry.
I definitely think it'll be a busy 4 years. I mean, we have
Yeah.
some big projects, and
Yeah.
they're important projects, and they shape what Snohomish looks like for a long time. So
Yeah. We even appreciated the involvement on the HDSA side. Like there's, what are they? Twice a month we have meetings, just like an update on First Street Master Plan that they've invited us to come to.
Mhm.
And I've attended almost all of those. And it's just great to hear like the outreach, or be able to give some input on how the outreach could be better, or what I
Yeah.
think would be a better approach, or how we can help collaborate with at least bringing that access to the businesses. And we hosted a couple of the meetings where the city came and was able to speak to the businesses directly. And it was great to see the attendance at those. So
Yeah.
I'm really appreciative of the engagement that they have fostered there.
Yeah.
And I want to keep that
Yeah.
going as we move forward. So
Yeah, I'm a big believer in kind of the idea that leadership flows both ways.
Mm.
And I don't know. Do you guys know who Jocko Willink is?
No.
He's a Navy SEAL. He does leadership for businesses. He'll come into business and give leadership advice and kind of corporate structure advice. But he writes books on leadership. And one of his big one, he was a Navy SEAL. He led a group of SEALs, and his big thing was like, you can't always have your eye down the sight. Sometimes as a leader, you have to step back, and other people will still have their eyes down the sight, but you have to take in what they see. And that's kind of my goal coming in. Is I obviously want to bring my skill set to the table, but I really want to make sure everyone brings their skill set to the table as well. And it's not about just letting it be a free for all where everyone's at the table all the time, trying to yell over each other, but it's picking and choosing the right, like, hey, you have some real wisdom here. Let's get you on a video to present that to the public.
Yeah.
I think that's really important, and the public want to know what's going on at City Hall. So I think social media will be really key during my 4 years, and it won't be long scripted 20-minute videos or anything like that, but it might just be a 2-minute, like, hey, this is what we talked about at City Council last night. If you want to know more, here's the link. That's a really palatable way for people to go, oh, that's what they're talking about.
Are you thinking like trying to carry forward your personal one that you've kind of established and using that as another outreach? Or are you thinking kind of influencing the one that established for the city of Snohomish?
I've seen it done a couple different ways, so I don't know exactly what it will look like just yet. But I need to talk with the city attorney at some point just to figure out some of the rules there. But whatever way it ends up landing, it'll be effective. So.
Yeah.
I'll take an opportunity to just lead up, show you what's in our sights a little bit, with the First Street Master Plan. The First Street Master Plan, in our view, is really the most valuable and impactful project for Snohomish. As you said, this project will impact Snohomish for generations to come. And we've heard from different people at the city that, the future of the city is north. And, with the annexation, there's, the Bigford kind of business area with the Home Depot, Fred Meyer, and Bigford Ford, all of which are important for our residents and community. But it's been cited as that's the future because that's really where most of the city's sales tax revenue comes from. But from our position, as we look at the budget, sales tax really is only about 12% of the city's budget. So it's a minority portion of where the revenue to run the city comes from. And there are different ways of looking at the value of the city. One is sales tax revenue, but another is property values and property taxes. And that is an indication where the real value of any community lies. And if we look at the value, and we as an organization did this analysis where we looked at literally every single property within the historic downtown district and the properties in the Bickford district, and we did a comparison. And the value per acre of the historic downtown is 233% higher.
Wow.
37% higher. Megan remembers these numbers better than me compared to that Bickford district.
Right.
And so it shows that really the value of Snohomish is here. And as we looked at, we've started to gather data from our businesses about, how many employees do you have? Let's take a look at how many people are employed here. And it's over 1,000 people are employed in the historic downtown district.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's amazing. And with a town of only, 10,000 people,
right,
that's probably 20% of the workforce, is right here in our downtown. The wages, what is it, $30 million?
Yeah, I was shocked at that number. I saw that.
Right. We ran and reran and reran and reran those numbers.
Right.
But those are actually pretty conservative numbers based on the average, wages that our people receive downtown. And all of that money, is local. Those wages are local. And in looking at my own business, it's really a little over 2x my annual revenue. That all of that money stays local. And it stays local because I buy local, I pay local, those people are local who buy local, and it just circulates again and again. We'll eventually be able to run those numbers like, what is the total financial impact of our historic downtown on Snohomish? And if we think of, return on investment, the best place to invest for Snohomish County even, is right here in this small space, the historic downtown district. It's the heart, it's the soul, it's the backbone, it's the future, really. And so as we look, down our sites, we see the future, right here. And it's great that you guys own a business right here on First Street because you understand how important this is. And so we just hope that the city, with a small team with fixed resources, there are lots of places you could focus.
Right.
But really, this is a place where we're going to get the best bang for our buck, by focusing right here and building this up for generations to come. Just want to pass that on.
Yeah, no doubt the historic district is the heartbeat of our town. And regarding kind of the different, that idea of, benefit per acre, I think that's a good metric. It does make me think of in fishing, we have king crab, like we just wrapped up king crab, very high value, very short season. And then you have other fishing opportunities like cod or opilio crab, which is a lower price, but it goes longer. And you need both, right? You need both. So we need the Bickford Ford, and we need the Home Depot and the McDaniels and all the, a little bit bigger of businesses, because it provides this like nice baseline. But also we have to focus on the historic district too, because you can't have one without the other, really. It's key. So I'm excited for some of the stuff coming up, and I got some bigger ideas for around here, but I'm still in the planning process, and not going to talk about it yet. But
we're grateful for that. We're grateful for the ideas.
Yeah, but I'm sure we'll chat about it in the future, because I think Snohomish has all the potential in the world, and people drive for hours to come here, and that's special. Like you don't always see that in a town. There's a couple towns where you'll drive hours and pass through it, but there's not very many towns where you will take 2 or 3 hours just to get to a town.
Yeah.
And I met a woman this week. She and her husband, I think they live in was it Wenatchee? They're on the east side of the mountains, but they bought a condo here just because they're like, it's the best place in Washington. Where most people on the west side, they're like buying a Chelan or something, a vacation place in Chelan or something. Yeah, but they did the opposite. They live over there, but they come here just because they love Snohomish, and that's pretty special.
The grass is greener on this side.
It literally is.
It for sure is. Yeah.
I know. I heard someone recently be like, "Oh, Snohomish is not a tourist destination." And I was like,
"Excuse me?
No,
where
that's not true."
Did you not look around?
Yeah. Another thing, regarding sales tax revenue, I really like the idea of people coming from out of town, spending money,
exactly,
the city collecting that money, rather than having to charge, residents increased taxes or utility rates or
and
whatever.
And the majority of that happens downtown.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have people that are coming from outside the area to buy their trucks from Bickford Ford. And I
for
will
sure.
never discount the, value that they bring because of their amazing fleet services and things like that. But like Ken said, it's, it's 12% of an entire budget. And I appreciate that we need to look at where all the funds are coming from, and retail sales tax matters.
Right.
But there's so many other things that add value to a community that I think are founded primarily in the downtown district. And those are worth looking at, not just waving the wand and be like, well, it's not retail sales tax, so we're going to focus over here. It's like, no, it's what you were saying. Everything complements the other. And it's important that we have a focus that's just as important.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
They bought a condo here, not to be closer to, the Fred Meyer.
Right.
Right. Although they're grateful for Fred Meyer.
They probably are.
They have the
sure.
best prices on strawberries, raspberries, blueberries. But it's really, people come here because of the historic downtown district. It's created something so unique and so special that people want to be here because of it.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of people wanting to be here, like with the condo example is actually great to think about sustainable growth. That's something that every city in Washington state has been not even just asked to do, but it is a requirement to do. And that's something that I've actually really appreciated the approaches so far that Brooke Idem, our planning director, has been taking, and the things that she's been offering. So personally, it's like, to be totally honest, I don't have a big grasp on the subject, but I've liked everything that I've seen come across. How do you feel about that? And do you have any different plans? Is there any sort of direction that you'd like to see the city go in?
Yeah, I don't have anything like specifics, like, oh, I want to change this or that. I'll speak speak to, I think, some priorities of mine as we manage growth. Part of what makes Snohomish special is the mix of residential and business. So I think managing and kind of matching that growth is important. And all types of business, it might be some commercial property in the north area of the town, and that's fine. But it'll also be, between 7th and 13th, there will be, I think, a lot of potential for new business there as it gets redeveloped, or we just see some kind of business turnover or whatever happens. But, allowing some business growth, and a lot of that comes to, like, we need to attract good businesses. We want to let people know, if you want to start a business, we want you in Snohomish. And as we attract those businesses, it's like you said, it's not just sales tax revenue. It's then the people, they live here and they get their income here, and then they're spending their money here. And I'm very blessed to live and work in the same town. And if we can incentivize people to, maybe not incentivize in some fiscal way or policy way, but just say, like, hey, you can build your dream here. That's really important. And then also, if business growth comes in, you don't quite have the same traffic flow issues. You look at like a Lake Stevens that just had such massive residential growth, and then you get big, commuter traffic congestion. But if you had business growth here, people are coming into the town when commuters are leaving in the morning, and then they're heading out of town when commuters are coming back. And it's just not the same negative effect on traffic. So beyond that, homeownership opportunity, I think, is important. I can imagine what it's like being an 18-year-old coming out of high school and trying to even envision the idea of buying a house right now. I don't think it's Snohomish's responsibility to fix the statewide housing crisis, but if we can come up with creative opportunities for a little bit lower cost home ownership opportunities, I'm a proponent of that. I think a lot of that will come kind of that medium density, some duplexes, some condos. I like the idea of like cottage type properties. And I'm no expert on any of this. I think we'll find the right people that speak into it. And I think some of the people are already there at the city that will be speaking into this. But, also with Snohomish, if you look at just some of the demographics, like we have a really good mix of homes and apartments. We actually have above state average apartments here in Snohomish, and we have below state average home ownership. So while I'm not against apartments coming in, I don't think that needs to be the number one priority. I think you need to have balance to kind of maintain some of the atmosphere that we already have. So a lot of it will just be, how can we keep this same atmosphere? You can't keep a town the same forever. That's just impossible. I think those are called ghost towns. So some people are just like very adamantly against change, and I get it. Snohomish, I'm sure, was a special place 20 years ago. It was a special place 10 years ago. It's a special place now. I think it'll be a special place in 10 years and in 20 years. And, obviously I don't want to see Snohomish lose its charm or just turn into another drive-through town or a commuter town or anything like that. I want it to be a destination. So I don't know exactly all that'll look like, but those are kind of my priorities. So
yeah, that's a lot of exciting topics that you will have to handle in the next 4 years.
Yeah.
Speaking a little bit on the future, though, so if we were to sit down again in 4 years, well, maybe 4 plus 2-3 months,
Yeah.
what do you hope you would be able to like look back towards the last 4 years to be like, yes, this is my mark and this is my legacy in the city of Snohomish. This is the impact that I have made in the last 4 years.
Yeah, I think one is, I'm against like the civic campus, but I don't want to replace that with a Band-Aid fix. I don't want to just do something that's like, oh, we're fine until the end of my term. Someone else can deal with it. That's that's not my mentality because I'm raising my family here. I want to be here for decades. So, and I actually think that's an important factor for me because I will be here for decades, and so I'm going to make decisions based on that. So I hope we can come up with some more fiscally responsible decisions on that, but still set the city up for success for maybe the next 50, 60 years. Who knows? I hope businesses look back at the 4 years and just go like, wow, Aaron cared about the dream we were trying to build. I'm trying to build the dream with my wife. So I do care. And um, I hope my kids are overall happy that I did this. I hope they learn a lot from it. I know it's going to be a sacrifice, but I think it will be just good. I hope to be a bridge. I hope to be a light. I hope that the city staff looks back at 4 years and just go like, wow, that was fun. We worked really hard and that was really fun. And I've had that opportunity at work. We've had really busy years that have been so busy and so stressful and so fun. And you see what's on the other side of that. And it's really cool to be a team. So I hope people feel I'm part of their team, whether they're a business owner or a resident or a kid coming out of high school or whatever that is. So
That's cool. Well, we'll get to see in 4 years and some change.
We'll
Hopefully,
schedule
we'll
that right
still
now.
be here.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, I've got a question for you about over the next 4 years. How would you like to work with the HDSA? How do you foresee that partnership progressing?
Main thing for me would just be, I like I said, I truly believe business owners have some of the best insight to give on, well, specifically business owners in the historic district have some of the best insight to give on the historic district. And that's why I am happy there's the First Street Master Plan Committee. I think that's really important. But I love the idea of the tax incentive program that Main Street offers. As a fiscal conservative, the more opportunity we have to keep money within our own city, it's like
It's a
for
no-brainer.
Yeah, I'm for it. So if we can kind of work together on that and showcase why it's important, why it works, and then what can we do with it? And I think that's a big part on anything. People want to know, okay, if I'm going to do something, or whether it's by choice or not, taxes are, you're forced into it. But what am I getting out of it? And I think that's a cool opportunity for us. We're in these leadership positions, and we can actually onboard people into the process. So I guess that's how I'd like to work together. Is just let's onboard people into some of the decisions and the goals and the vision, and that vision changes, but then we can onboard people into why it's changing. I think that's a cool opportunity.
Hopefully tonight you got to feel a little bit about what we do, right? We've been able to bring you and your voice, your personhood to our community. And that you're an important person in Snohomish. You always were an important person.
Well, thanks.
And because every person is,
Yeah.
but now there is a weight on your shoulders, right? A responsibility. And part of what we do as an organization, Megan already kind of hinted at this with the tree lighting, is just bringing people together and seeing that the person next to you is a good person. And that, in my mind, is probably the most valuable thing that we can do as an organization, is find ways to bring people together and to know that people that are different than them
Right.
are great, wonderful, good people. And that we all are what make Snohomish special. That's what it was that made Snohomish great 20 years ago, 10 years ago, today. And we want it to continue. forever. And building connections and relationships is part of building community. And as the stewards of the heart and soul of Snohomish, everything that we do is intended to serve people, the people who live here, people who work here, people who play here, and really the people who work to make all of that happen. And the city is part of that. So hopefully you got to feel a little bit about what our mission is and why we're important.
Well, we are, volunteer led, volunteer powered. Like technically, we have over 300 people involved in the organization. Ken and I were discussing the other day, we probably have 50 core people that are constantly involved. But of that 50, 2 of us are paid, So like when you were mentioning bringing other people in, what do you want to see? That is the question that is always out there. The door is always open. We're always wanting to bring in new people. We want to know what the direction of Snohomish essentially being kind of driven by the downtown core should look like to the people that are here. And there's one phrase within the Main Street community that I just really appreciate. We work with you, not for you. And that's so important for 2 reasons. One, there's not just some small group that's making all of the decisions and just driving everything forward, but also there's a shared responsibility and level of commitment and care when you are the ones making the decisions, because you get to see how everything ties together. And like even today, this person randomly called HDSA with just some questions that were totally unrelated really to our organization, but she was referred to us. And while we were talking, she was like, "Oh, I just love Snohomish so much." And I was like, we're volunteer driven.
Right.
You could participate. And she was like, "I had no idea. I didn't really even know that you guys did a lot of these things." She's like, "I'm totally going to get involved immediately." She texted me afterwards, wanted the link for our website. She signed up as a volunteer within like 5 minutes. And it was because she was just looking for some random Snohomish information and we happened to connect. But I think that's just a powerful story about people do really care about Snohomish. And like what you were saying, we're the one place that really brings in everybody just because this is a place. There's not some specific agenda or specific mission beyond we want this to exist for everybody and we want you to be able to come together, know your neighbor, and invest in the place that you care about. So yeah, I think we have some great partners in place. And I like that you have the vision of just bringing more people into that because we're completely in alignment.
Thank you.
I think people will be excited. I've already had people, reach out and how can we be part of the team? And they're not talking about jobs at City Hall. They're just saying, how can we just support you? We've a guy I met last week. He's like, my wife and I both grew up here. We both graduated from high school here and our kids go to high school here now. How can we help? And I don't always know exactly yet, but I definitely save their contact information.
You can funnel them to HDSA.
Yeah, I've got a call out. So we've got the tree lighting coming up in a couple of weeks, which will happen after this airs. Right, we do need volunteers to help with photos with Santa. We've got Winterfest coming up, where we'll need volunteers to help that event.
For the wine walk, please.
Yeah, the wine walk coming up. We've got volunteer opportunities, with the flags downtown. And so on our website, people can, if you want to be, if people want to be a part of this community, there's something for everybody.
Yeah, and those are just like the real tangible ones. Like we have committees that we're forming to get started in 2026 that are all about just like literally fostering community. That's the name of one of our committees. And that's like, we have these goals. How do you want to see us achieve that? Which is exactly what you were talking about. It's like, we all know that we want a sense of belonging and a sense of place, and that we want residents to feel, like this is their downtown. How? Well, who wants to come tell us how? Who wants to be part of the work? Open door everywhere. Doors everywhere.
I kind of jumped into maybe the highest commitment type of position, but there's a full scale.
Yeah, totally.
Both within City Hall and with, and out. So that's why I've been trying to tell people. It's like, there's commissions, there's boards, there's things you can do, and it doesn't have to be mayor or council, but you can still have like real impact, and you'll feel really, you'll learn a lot.
Yeah.
I'm learning a lot, and it's great. It's been awesome. So I think people will. I think we'll get more people involved.
I would love to see that.
I'm almost positive
That's
of it.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
Well,
believe that too.
yeah. We've asked you so many things.
Yes.
And now I'm going to ask you the most lighthearted and the last question.
But the
All right.
most important question.
It is the most important question. You've kind of touched on a lot of these already, but would you please just describe for us your perfect day in Snohomish?
Oh, perfect day in Snohomish. My kids would sleep in past 5:30.
That does
So
sound
that'd
nice.
be nice. Axel is in our bed pretty much every morning. He comes in at
Aw.
like 4:30 and then kicks us until 6:30, and
For that.
then we get
I
up,
wish I
but,
had that much energy.
I love the little guy, but it'd be nice to just get a full, actually sleep during my period. So I'd start out with good sleep, and then I'd probably have some pastries from Snohomish Bakery in the kitchen. Make a pot of coffee. I always like reading my Bible in the morning. Alyssa and I, we don't read together, but in the same room, and nice morning walk, probably a fall morning, all the trees coming down. We moved into town and it was October 31st. And I remember our first walk as a family and the colors, and it was a nice day. And so it'd be like that day. And probably get a workout in. I got a little home gym and another walk. Maybe door knocking now would be a part of that.
As
But,
part of the
perfect
walk,
day
right?
yeah. Oh, if we could get a babysitter for 2 hours, I'd go sit at
I got a
Uptown.
13-year-old.
There we go. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, 15-year-old.
Yeah. So babysitter for like 2 hours. Alyssa and I go grab a little getaway date, maybe Uptown, Randolph Cellars, just get a catch up and chat, which we're very overdue on some dates after the campaign. But and dinner, kids love Andy's. That's a nice, easy place to take the kids. We've been watching Star Wars movies
Oh, there you
as
go.
a family, so we'd probably do Star Wars movies. Kids aren't at Lord of the Rings age
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah, those orcs
So
are scary.
yeah, so we'll do a Star Wars movie. Kids go to bed nice and easy, and then Alyssa and I get to hang out a little bit more.
Aw,
So
that sounds
that'd be
perfect.
the day.
I love that the wake up and the sleep and the
Right.
bedtime are all included in your perfect
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
The
Because
priorities.
That
I
is
can
Yeah.
tell
very
you're
true.
a parent of young
kids,
children.
yeah.
Yeah, sleep's been a little limited.
It gets
so.
so much better, I promise.
Yeah.
You just gotta wait like 10 more years, you'll be there.
I know I'll miss the snuggles because like Axel is our probably snuggliest kid.
Yeah.
So I love,
The snuggles remain.
yeah, that's good.
Well, thank you so much for spending your time, your evening talking with us today. I feel like we get to know you again from a personhood. That's a new word that I learned today. From, as a human being and as a member of the community. And congratulations
you.
on the mayorship. And yeah, we look forward to seeing what you can accomplish in the next 4 years. And we'll save the date for 4 years plus a couple months, right?
Yeah, I am happy to come back
Reflection
before 4 years and 3 months.
Awesome.
We'll
Yeah, we'll
also
do this
keep you
again.
to that.
I've learned that I've always been more of a quiet person, but I guess I'm an extrovert because I really enjoy these type of settings. I like just chatting with people. And so that's another aspect of the mayor thing. I'm really excited is just connecting with people. It's going to be good. So.
Well, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you and we're here to work with you and support you, and we're excited.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And may the force be with you.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Snohomish Storytellers, brought to you by the Historic Downtown Snohomish Association, produced by Red Trucks.